Hi, Mark Donovan here from Falcon Imagery, and today I wanted to go over the topic of the confusion sometimes between decision altitudes and minimum descent altitudes. I often see instrument students and even instrument-rated pilots confusing the two and not knowing when to initiate a missed approach procedure. So I'm going to go over that topic, so follow along. All right, confusing decision altitude with minimum descent altitude. Let's go over the definitions and meanings of DAs and MDAs, or decision altitudes and minimum descent altitudes. So the decision altitude only applies to approaches with electronic vertical guidance. So these are approaches like an ILS that has a glide slope indicator, or even GPS approaches, LPV approaches, or LNAV, VNAV approaches that have glide path vertical guidance. Decision altitudes are different than minimum descent altitudes or MDAs. With MDAs, they are the absolute floor that you cannot descend below unless you can see the runway environment in front of you. With decision altitudes, these are altitudes that you descend down to and make a decision whether or not you're going to go missed or continue to land. And while you're doing this, you're actually on the glide slope itself. So of particular concern is when you have a non-precision approach that you're flying. It's important that when you get to the MDA, minimum descent altitude, that you do not immediately initiate a missed approach procedure. You want to wait till you get to the missed approach point. If you initiate a missed approach procedure right when you get to the MDA, you may end up finding yourself turning into the side of a mountain or some other object. So always wait until you get to the missed approach point, the map, before you initiate the missed approach procedure when you've descended to an MDA on a non-precision approach. So how can we not confuse a decision altitude with a minimum descent altitude? Well, the first thing you can do is always brief the plate, the instrument approach plate, as you plan to fly it. So if you're going to fly, let's say an RNAV approach plate that has an LPV and an LNAV approach in it, but you plan to fly at the LPV, you're going to be looking at the decision altitude. If you're going to see and fly the LNAV, then you look for the MDA for it. Similarly, if you're flying a ground-based approach that has an ILS and a localizer type approach. If you're flying the ILS, you're going to be looking to fly down to the DA or decision altitude. If you're going to fly just to the localizer, you're going to fly down to the MDA. So if you brief the plate as you're going to fly it, that will immensely help you out. Again, non-precision approaches are associated with minimum descent altitudes, where you descend to the MDA and then you're not going to go below it at any point until you have the required references per 91.175C that allow you to continue to land, or if you need to go missed if you can't see any of the runway environment. And again, if you do go missed, start your missed approach procedure at the missed approach point, no sooner. All right, let's talk about the precision approaches. Again, we're talking about decision altitudes, and they require that you follow the vertical guidance or glide slope or glide path down to the decision altitude, where you decide what you're going to do, whether to go missed or not, per the required references and other items that are listed in 91.175C that allow you to continue down and land. Note that with the decision altitude, you do briefly dip below the decision altitude when you are making your decision to descend or go missed. That's contrary to with an MDA. With an MDA, you can never go below it. But with the decision altitude, you can briefly go below it because it's at that point while you're in the glide slope that you look and make the decision, do you have any of the runway environment in sight? Also note the V in bold, and this is known as your visual descent point. And even though we're talking about precision approaches, if we had decided to fly this as a localizer approach, we would be very much concerned about the bold V here. This is our visual descent point. It is the point on a non-precision instrument approach from which a pilot can begin a normal and stabilized descent to the runway, provided they have at least one of the required visual references to the runway environment, and the flight visibility is not less than the visibility prescribed in the standard instrument approach procedure that they're flying. If you do decide to go missed on precision approach, then you can start your missed approach procedure immediately as long as you're at least, in this particular case, 7.9 nautical miles from the final approach fix, or the requisite time since passing the final approach fix per the flown ground speed. So if you look over here and we're flying 90 knots, it's going to take us 5 minutes and 16 seconds before we hit the distance that we need to actually start our missed approach procedure. Or again, just fly 7.9 nautical miles away further past the final approach fix, we can legally go missed. So similar to the non-precision approach here, the arrow that curves up indicates, oh, I can start my missed approach procedure at that point, right in my DA. But just to qualify a little bit more, that's why we also have in the approach plate the final approach fix to the missed approach point, both in time and distance, so you know exactly when you can start actually flying that missed approach procedure. Anyways, hopefully that provides some assistance in not confusing the difference between decision altitudes and minimum descent altitudes. If you have any other questions on this topic, feel free to leave comments or questions below and I'll try to answer them. Hopefully you found this video helpful, and if you did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you get notified of my next video.